Welcome to On the Bauble Podcast, episode 53. I'm your host, Sabasa J. Wade, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. And we've been on a long hiatus now. I guess it's not that long. It's been about a month or so. If you guys are wondering, this is episode 53. Episode 52 got recorded. It is not online anywhere right now. Unfortunately, there was some recording issues. Hopefully, we will have it posted at some point, or maybe just the unedited version might be posted. But it will be episode 53, and we're going to be moving on from bright lights and start talking about heavy hitters, as well as we're going to be talking about some channel updates that we have planned for you starting this year. But before that, Happy New Year, Yuki.
Happy New Year, Jay. We're recording on January 2nd here, just kind of getting into things with the new year. We had a little bit of a talk because even if it's been like about a month since our last episode, it was also getting a little bit spotty towards the end. We were not recording as consistently as before. So we had a little bit of like, what are we doing with the channel talk, and also a little bit of a talk about some of like what's been going on with us. So why don't we start with kind of like what we've been up to the last couple months and why things have been sort of spotty, and then we can move into the channel updates from there.
I guess I'll start. I just finished school like 2 weeks ago, right before Christmas, and then had some family gatherings and stuff to go to. At this point, I'm done school. I'm going to be looking for a full-time job again, and that's basically it. I had finals and some last-minute projects that I left for too long and was scrambling, procrastinating too much as well. It's like a combination of like the typical school year of like, oh no, I have 5 classes and I didn't do enough work for any of them, so that I'm scrambling to do too much work for all of them like a week before finals. And it's been hectic for me, but you know what? Everything's all done. It's a new year now, and hopefully this year's going to be better than last year.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been really busy with classes. I know that post-secondary education can be a lot of work. I definitely had the same thing going on when I was in school. Yeah, in the tail end of 2023, I'd been traveling a bunch, went to Worlds. Our episode was actually talking about Worlds. I had a very good run at Worlds, top 8, 13-1 in Swiss, and then lost in top 8 playing Icelander. And then after that, I went to Columbus, Ohio for the Realm Brawl and played the 20K Invitational. And I managed to top 8 that on Bolton, and then lost to eventual winner Brody Spurlock on Azalea. I think some of those games are on their YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check that out, you can. And the World's games are also on YouTube. So it's kind of like a lot of what I've been doing is I'd been traveling a bunch and then kind of came back and took it easy, spent some time with family, holiday stuff, and so on. And then just like Jay said, it's a new year, and hopefully the new year will be even better than the last, although I'm quite happy with how this last year has been going for me.
Yeah, for you, like the last 2 months of the year has been like top 8 Worlds, top 8 Realm games. Like that's a sick run. Like, just speaking in like Fab, like those are like the 2 biggest events in like the world around Fab in the last 2 months, and like you top 8 of both events. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd say since like August, I've had a good run. Like there was kind of not that many events early. Then August was I won Calling Vegas. Then I lost 2 win-ins for Canadian Nationals. Top 8'd Calling Dallas Fort Worth. Top 8'd Worlds. Top 8'd Realm. So since August, it's been a really, really good run for me. And I don't necessarily expect that to continue, but you know, I'll try my best. I would love for it to. But realistically, I'm probably going to have some events where I miss.
Well, the next event is what? Calling
Hartford.
Yeah, Calling Hartford. It's a limited one, so maybe you can top 8 that one too into PT top 8 in a month from that. Not even a month from that.
It's a bit over a month. It's like end of March.
Oh, okay.
PTLA. Yeah, it's March 22nd or so, and I think Calling Hartford's like right at the start of February. So I'll be going to both of those events. Pretty excited for the new set and everything, and we'll see how it goes. So that's kind of been what's been going on for us. And I think just between the travel and between Jay's studies, we kind of lost the thread a little bit and hadn't been recording quite as consistently and had like a little bit of a hiatus, or at least like a little bit of inconsistency with our episodes. So moving into 2024, one of the big things that we talked about with each other before doing this episode that we wanted to do was really try to return to that weekly episode where we're pushing out an episode each and every week and being a little more consistent with that. So that's something that's going to be happening. And one of the things that we're going to be doing to hopefully help that process is we're actually starting a Patreon. One of the issues that we ran into with last episode, the Worlds episode, was that before we had been using Zencaster, it was free. They moved to a subscription model and we tried a different recording method. And then a lot of the editing software that is usually used for the podcast didn't actually work with the file type from the new recording method. And that's why there's been so many troubles with uploading that file. So one of the things that we are hoping for from the Patreon is to help pay for Zencaster to help us record and edit and do all the things that we need to do, and also to help us kind of push out some additional content for you to help you improve beyond just the podcast. So maybe we can talk about our Patreon and some of the tiers and what people can expect from that.
But right before we do that, actually, as Yuki just said, like the recording for the last episode, that was all my fault. Like, I should have been a little bit more careful and made sure the file types worked. But yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out. So it was like a lot of work and headache to try and get it work, and it ultimately didn't. So I might just post the unedited raw footage of a very mediocre MP3 file, but we'll see if I can find a way to start editing it or re-record it. I might do that too. So, but don't expect it anytime soon. But from episode 53, this year my goal will be to make 50 episodes this year. I think that's a really good goal, right? One a week, 52 weeks, get 50 episodes out.
Yeah. So you can expect something like that. There might be the very, very occasional delay, but for the most part, we're going to be on top of it.
It's gonna be when you go to Worlds, and hopefully I go to Worlds this year, and we can't record for that 1 week.
We'll see. Maybe we'll record it and the editing will get delayed. Something like that sounds reasonable. Okay, so moving on to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/onthebauble. We'll include that on our YouTube channel as well. You can start supporting the podcast for as little as $2 a month and gain access to our Discord. One of the big perks of joining our Discord is that Jay and I are going to be committed to posting our draft decks and our sealed decks from armories, as well as any other events that we do. So if there's like a draft skirmish, draft RTN, calling Hartford, all of those types of things, we're going to be posting all of our draft and sealed decks, as well as like kind of a brief, very short write-up of our thoughts on the deck, what worked well, what didn't work well, which cards really shine, what we would do differently, all of that kind of thing, so that you have a reference to learn from. And then of course the Discord will also give you a place to discuss your own draft decks and limited or CC in general with the rest of the Discord community. So we're just starting out, but that's sort of our vision for the Discord, is a resource for you to kind of check out what we've been up to in limited and also share your own thoughts and discussions as well.
I'm online all the time too, so I'll be popping in here and there all the time on the Discord once it starts getting more people in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure if people start posting their draft decks, like us or other people in the Discord can, give our thoughts and our critiques on it about, well, maybe you need more blues, or maybe you need more of like this type of card. Those kinds of feedbacks we can give you. So that's starting at $2, moving up to $5. There's another tier if you just want to help support the show a little bit more, but still mostly just the Discord access. Beyond that, I'm going to be adding a few extra perks for people who want a little bit extra content and a little bit extra value added. I'll be posting articles and strategy guides. So I'll just be trying to move some of my writing onto Discord that I've been doing previously. I think Discord and Patreon will be sort of like the main avenue for that to be distributed. So I'll be trying to post probably like at least once a month on these articles, perhaps a little bit more often. We'll kind of see how it goes. In addition to that, I'll be posting tournament reports from big events. So just kind of giving an update of how the tournament went, what my learnings were, any thoughts I had, and so on. And also deck lists and sideboard guides for CC events. I'm going to kind of do this depending on the event. For something like a Road to Nationals, I'll probably post deck list and sideboard guide before I play so that people can access that and try that out. And then for bigger events like callings or PTs, I'll probably be posting the deck list and sideboard guides like during the event, shortly after the event, something like that. Not immediately before. So that's kind of what you can expect from that tier. And then moving up to $55 a month, our Heart of Findle tier has all the previous benefits as well as a monthly coaching session with me. So if you are interested in getting some coaching in limited or CC or whatever you need to focus on, that is the tier for you. And if you have questions about any of these tiers, you can reach out to Jay or myself.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, most of the higher tier stuff is gonna be all done by Yuki. It's look, she is the top 8 world's competitor, winner of callings. She's like one of the best players in the game. Like, it's honestly the highest level coaching you'll probably get in that you'll be able to find online right now, at least. Look, Yuki's definitely doing it, and this is like an easy way to get access to that. The payment portal should be going through Patreon, so it'll be much easier to work with too.
Okay, so that's the channel, the Patreon, and honestly, like any support you can give us, if you're not interested in the higher tiers and you just want to give back a little bit, consider the $2 a month as less than the price of a cup of coffee, and it really does help us out and will help us kind of meet a lot of our goals of being more consistent, making sure we have the proper software and everything to run the podcast the way that we want to, and to make sure that you're getting the content that you enjoy and deserve as well. So, anyways,
One more thing.
yeah.
No matter, you don't have to subscribe to Patreon. All of our content will still be on Spotify, will still be on
Mhm.
YouTube, will be on all the platforms that currently exist, except for what Google Podcast is going away. Yeah, so everything will be free. So don't feel pressure to donate or to use Patreon, but will be much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to move on to some of the early heavy hitter spoilers and what we've been seeing in the set?
Yeah. So today I think we're gonna be talking mainly about just the new heroes that got spoiled. We have 5 of the 6 heroes spoiled so far, and most of the specializations. Did we get 4 of the 6 specializations? I think.
Yeah, we have 4 specializations. I guess we don't know exactly how many there are. Like in the past, some heroes have had like 2 specializations or like no specialization. So we don't know for sure, but 4 of the heroes have gotten a specialization so far.
Yeah. All right, let's move right into it. Do you want to talk about a hero that's not new? I guess, which will be Reinar.
Yes, so we have Reinar the Reckless Rampage returning. This was, I believe, the 5th hero spoiled. I know some people are a little bit disappointed because I think that like we had seen so many new heroes and they're like, oh, it's just Reinar. So I know that there's like some people that are disappointed about that, but overall, like I think it's pretty cool that they're bringing back Reinar and giving him some new support. Hopefully, he'll get some meaningful upgrades, much like what we saw with Azalea and Katsu in Outsiders, where they got quite a bit of support, and then we started seeing them doing quite well, top hitting, winning events. And Reinhardt's a hero that has had some success here and there, and I think some dedicated support to him could really kind of reward some of those long-term Reinhardt fans.
Azalea got a little bit too much support, in my opinion. Codex of Frailty was pushing it a little bit too much,
Mhm.
and I still think that card's still pushing it a little bit too much. So hopefully, it's not as toxic as Codex of Frailty. But yeah, Reinhardt definitely needs some better cards, and I think one of the cards that got spoiled already is a card called Show No Mercy, and it's a Reinhardt specialization, brute action attack, and it just reads, or it has 6 power and 3 block, and it reads, when this attacks, intimidate them. If a hero has no cards in his hand, this card gets +3 power.
Yeah, so this card is a lot like Alpha Rampage, where it's a 3 for 9. The +3 is a little bit harder to get because they have to have no cards in their hand, but it is a dynamic effect. So, meaning if your opponent blocks with, like, let's say you intimidate them down to 2 cards, when you play Show No Mercy and they block with 2 cards, they would have no cards in their hand because they're blocking with 2, and it would get bumped up to 9. So you don't necessarily have to take their whole hand to turn on this effect. It could also be if they're just like wanting to stop 6 damage and they have 2 cards that would also turn it on. And then the upside of this card compared to Alpha Rampage is that you don't have to discard a card as the cost, which means that when you do the thing with this card, it's going to be way more efficient, because Alpha Rampage always kind of had the problem of like, no matter what, you're doing 3 cards for 9, and yes, it's evasive, but 3 cards for 9 damage is just not so great. But if you can ever make this a 2 card 9, that's very good. Icelander won Worlds and was built off of 2 card 8s. So 2 card 9 with an Intimidate is you do have to work for it, but it is real strong.
Yeah, if you combine this with like any of the Reinhar's Go Again intimidate effects, like that's kind of insane. Like if you can intimidate like 2 to 3 times and then play Show No Mercy, like what are they gonna do? Just eat 6 damage or eat 9 damage? If you can play like, oh my god, I'm blanking on the card name. The
Barraging
yellow,
Beatdown,
nah, the yellow
Blood
card that
Rush Bellows.
Blood Rush Bellows, yes. If you combine this with Blood Rush Bellow, intimidate them, and then play like one more attack with Go Again and Intimidate, play this, Intimidate, like what is your opponent gonna do? They're just gonna like take 20? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the card can really push a lot of unblockable damage. You can also set this up with barraging beatdowns. So like if you have 3 barraging beatdowns plus this, that would be like a 5 card hand, and you would take their whole hand. So if they're, I don't know, you have like 2 reds and a yellow, that's like 11 from the barraging beatdowns. This comes in for 9. That's like 20 damage unblockable. I'm not saying that it's like trivial to set that up. That is the type of play that you can do with this card, and that kind of unblockable damage is like really, really good, especially in a deck like Rhinar, which can be built to have a lot of 3 blocks. So like this is potential like second cycle stuff that Rhinar can do, is set up, a bunch of barragings, a bunch of intimidate effects with Show No Mercy, and just push maybe not like the 20, but even like 15 unblockable seems like pretty doable and very strong.
It's sick. I'm kind of excited for this card. Maybe this card pushes Reinhardt just enough to make the deck like really annoying to play against. Not to mention the deck's already kind of annoying to play against. Whenever you get intimidated and like they rip the wrong card out of your hand, like oh man, they rip like a D react out of your hand. Is you just I hate those moments.
Yeah, Reinar, notably, it doesn't help Reinar with like one of his problems, which is aggro decks. So Reinar's pretty good when decks want to block. Your Intimidate gets a lot of value sometimes because they don't get a block with the cards they want to block with, and you can make it real awkward for them. And Show No Mercy is really good for pushing through damage against a class that's wanting to block against you. But notably, if you're playing like a Fi who really doesn't really want to block you very much anyways, this card's not going to shine there. So we'll have to see what other support he gets, but Show No Mercy is a pretty powerful card overall.
I think it might just be an auto include now.
I think so, yeah.
I think talking about Brute, we have one new hero for Brutes, and this card is called KO Armed and Dangerous. This card looks so sweet. Like the art is it's actually kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll explain the card to you. Sorry. So it has a really interesting line of text here. It says you have one weapon zone. And as a reminder, it says you may only have a one-handed weapon or an offhand equipment. And it says attack action cards you own gets +1 while they are in any zone other than the combat chain. The first time you discard a card with 6 or more power during each of your action phases, create a might token.
And this is a 40 health for intellect brute hero. So we see KO return with very different hero abilities. I think this text box is really, really strong. It, of course, has a drawback on it as well with the only one weapon zone. But effectively, what this means for all of your draw discard effects and any pitching effects, you have access to like as many blue sixes as you want, pretty much. Notably, these aren't poppers, so that won't work against like a Dromai, for example, but it does potentially give you a lot of consistency on cards like Pulping and Wild Ride, which have the draw and random discard. You can just play a whole bunch of blue sixes for that deck, and potentially something like a Berserk combo deck can be maybe real for KO. I could see it being it certainly has gotten a lot better. It's a matter of how consistent that deck is. And then, getting an extra might token each turn is pretty good. That's one extra value. And if you like discard a card and then play a 2-card hand of CNC for 7, like that is really, really good. So I think KO has a lot of potential, and it's really going to kind of depend how much you can take advantage of having all these extra blue sixes. I think effectively it means that you have like a lot more access to go again. Is kind of what this secretly says.
Yeah, and I guess the downside of only one weapon zone, meaning that you can only have one Mandible Claw on this card. We actually don't know the weapons that are in this set yet, but my assumption is it's gonna be Mandible Claws. Looking at the art of this card,
Yeah,
one weapon zone, one-handed brute weapon. Like Mandible Claw seems like a very natural card for it to be in this hero.
yeah, the art really does look like Mandible Claw, and I think they probably felt. My guess is that they felt like they had to put this restriction on because Brute with too many blue sixes and Blood Rush Bellows and two claws is probably very, very scary. I haven't play tested against it, but Blood Rush Bellow already a very scary card, and yeah, if it's super consistent, then that's my best guess as to why they've given this restriction.
Yeah, like Reinhardt with the yellows and Bellow plus two Mandible Claws is already gross. Like, oh, blues with that would be like actually unbeatable.
Yeah, and then especially considering like you get to play like your pulpings and your wild rides and have them be super consistent. So if you're like you can still do something like pulping for 8, mandible claw for 5, and then like swing big for 10. And it's just 23 damage. Pretty good, and you get the might token for the next turn. Like very,
Oh
very,
yeah,
very
the might
strong.
token. I forgot about the might token. Oh,
Yeah.
let's talk about it. What is a might token, Yuki?
Uh, so it says the start of your action phase, you destroy it, and your next attack gets +1.
Turns one of your attacks into a 7.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
man,
just
like
good.
you were talking about how Icelander was just based on 2 card 7s. KO is basically the same thing. You get to keep on presenting 2 card 7s as long as you get to play cards, right? Like as long as you get to discard cards.
Yeah, I mean, Icelander has a lot of 2 card 8s, but yeah, I think KO is pretty strong. Like if your baseline is like throwing a lot of 2 card 7s, and then you can set up like a big Berserk turn or a big Blood Rush Bellows turn, like that's pretty scary.
The other thing that I want to talk about KO would be, I guess, the rules thing. Currently, I'm pretty sure offhand equipments can only be equipped if you have a one-handed equipment or something like that. They might change this to being able to just equip an offhand with the one weapon zone. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but from the reminder text of this card, we might get like a slight rules update on one armed heroes.
Yeah, maybe you can run Arcane Lantern KO and nothing else.
That's interesting. I don't. It's might be correct against like a Kano that's trying to like burst you down, but we'll
Maybe.
see.
Sounds so
Maybe
bad.
that's the thing.
All right. Do you want to move on to Guardian?
Sure, Guardian. This is actually so the new hero is kind of like my, how do I say it, favorite, my most wanting to play, most likely going to build this Guardian. I've realized now that I actually just like Guardian as a class, and I didn't realize this until like somebody was just like, "Man, you play Bravo, you play Oldham, you play Starvo, you play all the Guardians," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just like the Guardian class." And I saw this card come out, and I'm like, "I like this card too."
Wait, you're just figuring out this now? I could have told you like Guardian a long time ago.
Yeah, like I figured this out like maybe like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just a Guardian player."
I kind of want to hear from any of our YouTube listeners. If you knew Jay was a Guardian player more than 2 weeks ago, let us know in the comments below. Because I bet like a lot of people already know this if they've been listening to the podcast for a while. I'm kind of curious how many people already knew that Jay was a Guardian player.
it's it's kind of weird. Like in my own mind, I didn't have that like it wasn't clicking to me that like that's what people thought of me as, and then like the more I thought about it, I'm just like, oh wait, no, I'm just like a Guardian main. Okay. Either way, we get a new hero. Her name is Betsy Skin in the game. She has an ability. Whenever an attack you control wagers, you may pay 2 resources. If you do, the attack gets +1 and overpower. And overpower is it can only be defended by more can't be defended by more than one action card. 4 intellect, 40 health.
Yeah. So Betsy on her face kind of like Bravo, right? Like the pay two resources. You don't get dominate though. You get overpower. Overpower is a bit of a weaker effect, and it has a different condition. It's not guardian attacks. It's the next attack you have that wagers. So we'll be talking about wager in just a moment. But the upside of this is you do get the +1 attack, and the +1 attack does matter a fair bit. One of the problems Bravo has is like you're spending 2 resources for dominate, but you're not really getting any extra damage out of it. So I think getting the 1 extra damage out of this overpower effect is like actually pretty strong, depending on how strong the wager cards are.
One more thing I do want to say is, unlike how Bravos or like the original Guardian attacks, they had to crush, which means they had to do 4 damage. Wager just needs to do minimum of 1 damage, which makes it significantly harder to block. Even if you dominated a crush card, all they had to do was make sure it's doing 3 or less damage. Whereas wager cards, you kind of need to completely block it out, or they still get their on hits. So I think that makes a pretty big difference too. If like this was dominate instead of overpowered, this card would be way too good.
Yeah, because like if you think like a spinal crush, like as long as you can block 6 on the spinal crush, you are safe from it. But for a card like Betsy's specialization, Bet Big, you actually need to block the whole thing out. So we can talk about this card as an example of a wager card. This is a Guardian, red Guardian attack, comes in for 8, blocks for 3, and costs 4. And Bet Big is a Betsy specialization that reads, when this attacks a hero, you may wager a gold, might, and vigor token. And what this means is that if you choose to wager with them, if you hit, you get a gold token, a might token, and a vigor token. Vigor token is at the start of your turn. It breaks, you get an resource. And if you don't hit, they get one of each instead. So it's kind of like an all or nothing mechanic. If you hit, you get the stuff that you wager. If you don't hit, your opponent gets it. So they're very incentivized to block. But Betsy is very good at making it hard to block. By giving overpower with her ability.
Yeah, I love this mechanic. It's like I don't know yet if it's just gonna be like a first cycle do a lot of damage deck, or what I'm envisioning right now is like this like pitch stack dream of just like trying to memorize your opponent's block values after you get rid of all their armor, and force them to leak 1 with your wagers and start snowballing with the with perfect information. That is my ideal with wager abilities. This card seems so sweet.
It is very cool, and getting the extra resource makes like using the gold easier. Lets you like play another bet big if you want to off of like 2 cards. Like you play a blue, pitch a blue, play a bet big for 9 on your next turn if the first one hits. Like there's some real powerful stuff that you can do if this hits, and there are other wager cards. I'm kind of curious if Betsy's weapon will have wager, and or if she'll be able to give it wager. Like we've seen like some cards like money where your mouth is. I think it's a 1 cost 2 block non-attack action that gives your next attack +3 and you can wager a gold, and it does apply to weapons. So that's kind of what I'm curious about. Is I want to see her weapon, which from the looks of it is like a big log or something, and or like a barrel. Like it might be a barrel, I'm not sure. But I want to see if like that weapon has wager, or she's like going to be like giving her weapon wager, and that's going to be like part of her gameplay.
That would be interesting. If her weapon has wager, that kind of feels broken, right? Like in limited, you get to keep on attacking with your weapon and giving it overpower. That seems you're gonna leak damage. Like I kind of don't know if they're gonna be printing defense reactions in this set.
There's
And
block cards though.
oh, there are block cards.
Yeah, we've
Oh,
already
okay,
seen
okay,
some.
okay.
We've seen like I forget what they're called. They're like test of agility and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, okay. But man, even if there is block cards though, like we saw overpower in Bright Lights, and that was like a game changing mechanic, right? Like when you get to
Mhm.
overpower a bigger attack. Imagine that being on a weapon. That's like kind of toxic.
Yeah, it could be like not on a weapon, and it could be limited to cards like money where your mouth is, where you give your next attack wager. But I'm kind of curious to see like how her weapon plays in with her gameplay loop, or if she's just going to have like a like a guardian 3 cost 4 attack weapon.
That's fair. That's fair. Man, the other thing is I love the flavor on Betsy. Like the wager mechanic is like, man, it's like so. If people know, I like to gamble a lot. I play a lot of poker, so just like this theme itself is something that like I connect to a lot. And
Yeah.
man, this set's sweet.
Yeah, I think it looks like a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see how Wager plays, and Betsy looking like, I don't know, she might be a little bit more of an aggressive guardian, which maybe I would actually play. I'm not sure. Like disruption and proactive gameplay seems interesting to me. I don't usually like guardians, but maybe I'm intrigued by Betsy. We'll see.
No, I want it the other way. I want it to be defensive and react. I want the wager to be a sorry. I want wager to be a mechanic where you identify a spot where your opponent wants to keep their 4 card hand and then you wager it on purpose even though you know it gets blocked out and rip their hand apart so they can't, like on a turn your opponent has a show no mercy in hand. You like wager it so that they can't use like a full 5 card hand with a show no mercy, something like that.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess one of us will be very happy and one of us will be very sad.
Oh my god, at least it's a win. Someone's gonna win.
Someone's gonna win.
Net neutral. Actually, no. There's a way that it's gonna be lose for us. If Betsy's unplayable,
True.
then I'm gonna be sad, and you just don't care. Okay, please, 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 Betsy, be good. Playable and constructed, playable and limited, both, or one or the other.
I think she'll be pretty good in limited. Guardians are usually like just fundamentally really strong. Like the big attacks are pretty strong and limited. They usually have good weapons. They usually have good block values. Like I think she'll be good and limited. She has evasion.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. And the third class in this set's gonna be warriors. And who do you want to talk about first?
We could talk about our returning warrior first. So we, much like how we had KO return, we have Kasai returning. So we have Kasai of the Golden Sand. This is an adult 4 health, 4 intellect, 40 health warrior hero. It was actually spoiled in Barcelona, so many of you probably have seen it already. Kasai reads, if you've drawn a card this turn, your sword attacks cost 1 less to activate. And then she has a once per turn action. Banish 2 red and 2 yellow cards from your graveyard. The next time a weapon you control hits a hero this turn, create a gold token. So pretty interesting. Once you're able to draw cards, perhaps with a gold, your sword attacks are then free. Gold tokens are kind of strong on their own. You can use things like cash in. I've also seen people talking about nourishing emptiness in Kasai, where you can banish reds and yellows from your graveyard, so you can banish away some of the attack actions, and nourishing emptiness is just like pretty free to have on at basically all times. So this is the other hero that I'm very interested in. I think that she can do some really powerful stuff. And I believe we already know that her signature weapon is going to be Centauri Cell Swords. So yeah, I think she's probably going to be like a grindy value deck that can use Valiant Dynamos and then maybe do some powerful stuff with gold. Seems pretty appealing, actually.
The weapon name is Centauri Saber.
Right.
Yeah.
Centauri Saber.
Centauri Cell Sword is a card we're going to talk about very soon. Centauri Saber and Kasai, talking about her first. Banish 2 red and 2 yellow cards mean that this deck can be built in a lot of different ways and constructed, right? Because when I first looked at it, I thought the same kind of thing as you could banish like yellow and red attack actions and then play like Nourishing Emptiness and keep on going. But then after talking with other people, I also noticed that we can play a very defensive Kasai deck where it's kind of disruptive, where your reds can be defense reactions like Fate Foreseen and stuff like that, right? Because it's just 2
Mm-hmm.
red cards and 2 yellow cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then play like a very defensive, grindy game with Kasai as well, where your Centauri Saber now has an on hit every other turn, and it's kind of annoying. Like you still don't want these grindy decks to get multiple gold tokens. A way to spend one of these gold tokens will be Kasai Specialization. You want to move on to that?
Yeah, so we have Raise an Army. This is a yellow non-attack action that costs 0 and blocks for 3, and it's a Kasai specialization. It says, as an additional cost to play this, destroy X gold you control. create X Centauri sellsword tokens, and this action has go again. So you can cash in all your gold for Centauri sellswords. What are they? They are allies that attack for 3 and have 2 life and have go again, and they cost 1 resource to activate. I think you do they have a condition on their go again?
No, it does not. It's gross. It's just once per turn action, resource, attack, go again.
Oh, it does have yeah. Centauri Sellsword can only attack if you've attacked with a weapon this turn. So you do need to like weapon attack, give it go again, then you can Centauri Sellsword a bunch of times.
Yes, but like it itself does not have any restrictions on its go again. Like once you attack with a
Yeah.
saber once, it's all on for the whole turn.
Yeah. So this is potentially pretty strong. Like a 3/2 ally with go again is just really good value, and getting multiple of these is pretty strong. I could see this maybe as like this card just seems very good. Like you could play this as like a value card, like getting like 1 or 2 Centauri Sellswords seems very good. But I think also as like a late game finisher, if you get multiple of these, like if you got like 5 Centauri Sellswords, it's like super Kodachi lock, you know?
Yeah, and I think the big thing was like, you know how like this is an ally and typically the only allies that we usually see are the dragons that Dromai makes?
Mm-hmm.
This card doesn't have Phantasm. You can't pop it.
Yeah. This is pretty annoying for a lot of classes to deal with. Seems very good.
What am I supposed to do? Like I can't pop it with like my guardian attacks. It's just like my cards don't have go again. How am I supposed to deal with this stuff?
You just stop them from getting gold tokens entirely.
Is that even possible?
You just gotta block out the swords.
That does not seem like a winning strategy, Yuki, and you know that too.
I don't know. Maybe I haven't played at all with
If
Kasai.
if they start Crown of Dominion, they're guaranteed 1 gold.
It's true. Yeah,
Ugh.
this deck's pretty interesting. You also get like cash in as a payoff. I'm also kind of thinking we might get more gold payoffs. I'm not sure. Like gold's pretty strong on its own, but there's like a lot of heroes that can make gold like with a wager mechanic and things like that as well. Pretty curious to see if that ends up if we get another good like outlet for the gold tokens. Like Kasai already kind of has one with their specialization, but if like the other heroes do and Kasai can also use that, it could be pretty interesting.
Have you already bought your playsets of Cashin?
I already have Cashin. Cashin's like not a majestic.
Yeah, it's a rare, but it's like it's. I think it's reaching like $10 each now, isn't it?
Is it
Pretty sure. I'm gonna check right now. Oh,
360?
it's like it's almost $5. Sorry.
That is gross.
Yeah. Oh no, it's
What is
lowest
this to
listed is
Canada?
no lowest listed is four. It's about $5 each with the shipping.
Wow,
Yeah.
gross. I'm
It's
pretty sure I have a playset of these, but yeah.
yeah. No, I've been slowly picking up these cash-ins whenever I see them like locally or on online discords because I'm like rares are hard to get in this game sometimes, and mostly Crucible War rares. This is a card that I kind of wish it gets reprinted, even though I've spent a couple of dollars like trying to like pick up my extra copies of cash-ins. I kind of hope this is in the set.
Yeah, it very well could be. We'll see.
Anything else you want to talk about, Kasai?
No, I don't think so. This hero is sweet though. I like that it can block. It looks like it's like a deck that can like block, play a variety of hand sizes, has access to go again, can draw cards. Does a lot of things that I like doing in card games. So pretty excited about Kasai, honestly. I think it's probably the hero I'm most interested in currently, but I'll probably explore multiple. You want to move on to our last hero?
Yeah, let's move on to our next hero. Our next hero is Olympia, Prized Fighter. And this is a warrior hero, and it says the first time each of your attacks wins a wager, create a gold token.
Yeah, so getting a lot of incentive for wagering with these golds. Again, golds are pretty powerful. You can turn a blue into like one extra resource as well as a card. That's pretty good. And then this is the hero that really makes me wonder about gold outlets because as much as like popping them for value is pretty cool, like I wonder if there's something more to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we've seen Melody from the
Yeah,
LSS Tolarian Academy set. What is that called? Round the Table?
yeah,
Silver seems kind of insane. Like the silver combos you can do in the Melody deck is already kind of insane. The
yeah.
amount of
But a lot
combos
of
that get unlocked with gold tokens is like exponentially better, right? Like,
Yeah, but I mean a lot of what makes the melody really good is that like she has that card that scales with the number of cards you have in your pitch. Like I kind of wonder if we're gonna get like a style of card like that in this set, like something where like okay, I've gotten like 8 gold tokens and now you lose. Like I kind of feel like something like that's coming this set. We'll see.
well, like if you play like fire breathing, I know that's like a bad example of a card because it's not that good, but like if you cash in all your golds by pitching blue, 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 fire breathing you with all the extra resources, that's technically like a possible OTK, right?
I don't know. You're like going +1 resource for each gold, and that's like assuming that you draw blues. Like
No,
it's
you
a
can
little
pitch stack
rough.
this. This is all pitch stackable.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, I'm curious to see Olympia Prize Fighter. This hero is the one more than any that makes me feel like that there will be gold payoffs, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe golds are just strong enough on their own. Olympia also has a very interesting specialization. So his specialization is called Up the Ante. It is a blue warrior attack reaction that costs X. And it says choose X plus one. Target attack wagers an agility token with a defending hero. Target attack wagers a gold token. Target attack wagers a vigor token. Target attack gains plus Y, where Y is the number of times it has wagered. If you pay if you pay 3 resources into this, you can pick all the modes and wager an agility, a gold, and a vigor, and give it +3, which seems pretty strong at reaction speed. You would also get like an additional gold from Olympia's effect because you've won a wager. Yeah, potentially really strong. Can target weapon attacks as well as attack actions. And being a blue just means pretty good. I think that this like instant speed wager gonna be real good. You can also just like play this for 0. X is 0. Choose target attack wagers a gold, and then if it hits, you get 2 golds. Like that seems strong.
That does seem pretty strong. And if the card that you've buffed also already has wager, it gets +4, right?
Yes. Yeah, if the card is already wagered, then you can get additional buffs on it. So like I
Yeah,
guess I guess if you somehow wager multiple times, like money where your mouth is, adds a wager to an attack, like this could potentially get pretty crazy.
yeah, that's this card looks really sweet. And I love the name of this card, Up the Ante.
Yeah.
That's that is something that's like I've said before in my life.
Yeah. It feels very, very flavorful for what the card does. And definitely gonna be some risk associated with this wager mechanic of like especially like the D reacts are gonna be like you're gonna have to really think about like how much you want to wager and dump into this because if you like spend 3 resources and bump it up with up the ante and then they like sink below and get an agility, a gold, and a vigor,
Holy.
you might not be the happiest.
I think I guess Olympia will in constructed at least will be more playing towards like the Dory side, right? Whereas you get to play more reactions. If they block with Sink Below from hand, then it turns on your whatever the mechanic is called. I forgot what it's called, sorry.
Reprise,
Yeah,
maybe.
your
Yeah.
reprise abilities. Like if you combine this with like route, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, I also heard someone saying that like if you can give your weapon wagers relatively easily, like maybe you can run like Great Axe, and like Great Axe is pretty obnoxious to block out.
Oh, that's gross.
So I don't know. Olympia, interesting. I feel like we don't really have enough of the cards in this set to fully evaluate this hero, but he could do some pretty cool stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think Olympia's for how simple the hero is, he seems very interesting in like what you can do with the gold tokens and like how you can like try and trigger wager. Do we know if we have any spoilers for any warrior attacks that has wager?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there's a cycle of them.
Oh yes, there's wage agility, which says it's a brute warrior action attack. For it costs 3, attacks for 7, blocks for 2, and it says when this attacks a hero, you may wager an agility token with them, and that's it. Yeah, that's all it does. So when it attacks, you can wager.
Yeah. And we've also seen Wage Vigor same card, but you wager a vigor token, and that's Guardian Warrior. So we've seen those. We've also seen like a universal card, wage gold. When this attacks a hero, you may wager a gold token with them. This is a 3 for 7 that blocks 2 as well, and it counts as a class card in your deck. And then we've seen a number of cards that add wager to things like Money Where Your Mouth Is, which we've talked about a fair bit already, but also cards like there's a warrior called Hold'em. This is a warrior non-attack that blocks 3 and costs 1. It says your next warrior attack gains +3, and when this hits a hero, you may wager when this attacks a hero, you may wager a vigor token with them. So it does seem like Warrior's thing is going to be, or like one of Warrior's things is going to be wagering. And a lot of these cards work on weapons. So it could be weapon focused. It could also be attack action focused, or like maybe a combination. I'm pretty curious to see what we end up doing with this.
Yeah, and this is the first set where I think they've announced that each hero is gonna have like multiple different choices on weapons.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be kind of interested in like what weapons that we're gonna get, and hopefully we can talk about that in the next coming weeks. The world premieres on the 19th, so hopefully next week we get to see more cards, right?
Yeah, it seems like spoilers are going to be trickling in. I think the big spoiler season is from like the 16th till the 18th or something like that, right before the world premiere. So it might be a little bit dry in terms of new cards for a bit, but they seem to have been really kind of spreading out spoiler season this time and trickling them out slowly, which I like. And then I think there'll be a condensed period at the end where we get the rest of the cards. I think there's some really strong stuff in this set already. We haven't even really talked about all of them, and the episode's already getting pretty long, so I think some of them we'll have to come back to, but there's a lot of things that I'm pretty excited about in this set, and I think look quite playable and potentially quite strong.
I think the one thing that I'm gonna have trouble with having to pick up the token of like which one it makes me like, oh, it makes a might token. Okay, which one's the might token? It makes a vigor token. Okay, which one's the vigor token? It's like I know one makes power, one makes resources, and one makes a card. I guess it makes a gold. Agility. Oh, go again. Agility is go again. Sorry. Yeah. So there's power, go again, resource, silver and gold, so that can draw cards. There's a lot of tokens in the set.
There is, but like also we haven't actually seen silver in this set. We've only seen gold, and I mean we already had outsiders, which had ponder, blood rot, inertia, and frailty, so 4 tokens.
Yeah,
This might just be kind of set up the same way with gold, vigor, might, agility.
agility. Okay,
So
okay.
it might just be kind of the same thing. I'm sure it'll take like a little bit to get used to, but I feel like once we get used to it, it's going to be okay.
That's you know what when you frame it that way, that makes it way more simple or like way more approachable. But yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Okay. 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 You convinced me. You convinced me. It's not too bad. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's not too bad. That's not. Oh, but then we have so many more weapons and blah blah blah.
Yeah. It seems like a cool set. It seems like it also kind of reminds me of like Welcome to Wraith in that like we have like 3 of the same classes: Guardian, Warrior, Brute, and they're all like attack action focused. They all typically have good weapons. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wonder if there's going to be like WTR 2.0 to some degree in terms of gameplay. And WTR is like a very beloved set. It still holds up.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything weird, like
Yeah,
all
it's
the
just
other
like
sets all the other sets were doing like arcane damage and doing these weird stuff. Nah, we're going back to just like we're gonna hit each other in the face and block, which I kind of like.
yeah, it's definitely going to be a big departure from Bright Lights, which was like very synergy focused, lots going on, tons of mechanics, like very high complexity, very punishing. I suspect that this set's going to be much more approachable. LSS has sort of like said as much, and just from the classes and the cards we've seen, it seems like a lot of like, I think there's going to be interesting decisions with wager and things like that, but the is very like core flesh and blood mechanics that we're seeing here.
Do you know something that I'm really happy about for this set that I think 99% of the people would just not care about?
What's that?
This set will make Chaos Sealed significantly more playable. So, like, one of the biggest issues I have with Chaos Sealed is too many of the set has arcane damage. In a set with arcane damage, it's very difficult to block out arcane damage. So a lot of the gameplay ends up being like, oh, you have this card that just deals 5 arcane, and that becomes like the core gameplay of the format. And it's not that fun to like block out, get chipped, and be at 5 and have no AB, and your opponent just goes like, "Oh, I drew my deal 5 arcane," and like the game's over. There's like no outplay to it. Like you can't do anything about it. It's so hard to game life, and it's so hard to prevent arcane. I think with this set now, there's one more set with no arcane damage, and that makes that problem get diminished a little bit more, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, I could see that being a pretty big improvement, a pretty big quality of life for any Chaos Sealed or Shapeshifter fans.
Yeah, I look. I know this is like for the hyper minorities. Like people even listening to this podcast don't even care about this. But look, this is something I care about a little bit. Okay, it's that's a format that like if I get like my random friends to play like sealed with for money, like the Shapeshifter sealed is a good format to play. It's kind of fun and it's skill testing. It's but with too much arcane, it's not skill testing. So less arcane is good.
That's fair. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. If any of our listeners haven't tried Shapeshifter Sealed and you're kind of on the fence about it, I'd really recommend it. I feel like every time I've seen it fire, like everybody's having a great time, and I've played it once or twice, and I enjoyed myself quite a bit.
Like I take my time. Like if there's a shapeshifter side event like a day before an event, I try to book my flight a day early so I can make that event.
I've seen this in planning.
It
Jay's told
is
me about this.
it is that fun, guys. It's like it's the best casual experience you'll get. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I think that's a good place to wrap us up. As always, thanks for listening. You can find us at on social media on Twitter. I'm at Yukili Bender and Jay is at Ueda J. Or you can email us at onthebauble@gmail.com and send your questions directly there. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/onthebauble. Until next time, have a good night and thanks for listening. I hope that you enjoy the new heavy hitter spoilers that are coming out and just around the corner. It's a really exciting time to be playing Fab.